Welcome to our fireplace teardown, removal, and remodel project. We went from a double-sided, triangular-shaped limestone rock fireplace, there it is, to a wood stove with hardwood flooring setup. Final result looked like this. This is what the living room side of the fireplace looked like. And another shot of the living room side. And the side facing the dining room. You'll see a little rotisserie in there. Another shot of the dining room before we started. And a closer shot of that dining room. We start demolition. These cinder blocks are behind those limestone rocks. There was a ton of them. I'm estimating we hauled out about 6 tons of material out of here. It was like an iceberg. 10% you see and 90% you didn't. We started the demolition on the dining room side of the fireplace and had removed, at this point, all the limestone rock and the motor that was holding it in place. Because the cinder blocks went all the way through the roof, which we weren't expecting, we had to remove the cinder blocks all the way through the roof. As you'll see there, the demolition of the roof part taking place because we had to get this out of the way before we could continue down in the living room and dining room again. There's a temporary patch of plywood in there. We hired a contractor to come in and put new tile and flashing back on the roof. Had to get one out of Hermiston because nobody in our area still carried that kind of tile. It's no longer manufactured. With the cinder blocks that were protruding through the roof and the ceiling gone, we were able to start resuming checking out the fireplaces again. You'll see the daylight there coming through the roof from before I patched the hole. We're still in the dining room side here at this point. Making progress. Here I had got back up into the roof and had to do some work on repairing the trusses. When they had built the fireplace, they had cut through 2 trusses at both the ceiling and the roof, and those had to have been repaired. At this point, the dining room fireplace is gone, and all you see is the living room side from the back. We'd hung a sheet of plastic to keep the dust down, and this is what the front side looked. That's all that is left at this point. Started removing cinder blocks to get to the motor. And we got a nice little video coming up with special sound effects from James. Yes, I was worried about my head.
Watch the toes.
All that's left of the fireplace facing the living room is the motor and limestone. And we'd put a piece of plywood cover the opening to keep the dust from going into the living room. Once that was done, we went around to the front and started removing the limestone. Swinging that sledgehammer was a lot like being on a chain gang. We're getting there. Closer. Getting closer. And even Jamie had to get into the act. If you'll notice on the next slide, there was no insulation behind the fireplace at all on that exterior wall. No wonder we had cold drafts. Lots of rubble. Got to go out by wheelbarrow. That mantle's got to come out. And I'd put a patch up on the ceiling to keep the dust from blowing down out of the attic. Temporary patch, that is. Different shot from the living room again. Mantle is coming apart. More of the mantle coming out. Once we had the rest of the mantle out of there, there was a about 4-inch thick mortar mix slab that was laid on top of sheets of plywood. Pretty much there it is. And you can see it's close to even with the edge of the floor. That had to come out. Once we chopped all that up and got it out and removed the plywood, on the next slide you'll see we found another layer of cinder blocks. They all had to come out. This is down in the crawl space that we're looking at now. The crawl space opening from the floor. The entire fireplace was resting on those. I don't know how it held up all those years, 40-some years. That little green stub wall you see on the left side there, we wanted it out, so we hired a contractor to come in, and he put strong backs across the ceiling, above the ceiling, so we could get that out because it was a load-bearing wall. There we have all the rest of the rubble removed. Finally, the fireplaces are gone. The concrete slab in the bottom of the foundation there that the fireplace was sitting on. Because the fireplace was triangular shaped, we had a problem. We had Vermont slate on the dining room side, and it's no longer manufactured in that style, color, and shape. And we had to find a way to fix it, so I just wound up removing it and cutting it back even with the side in the living room. There's a faraway shot of what it looked like with the fireplace is completely gone now. Stub wall there is still in place because the strong backs haven't been installed yet. I had to install new floor joist, but didn't batten them down here yet because I wound up having to lift that end wall a total of 2 inches, 1/4 inch a day, because it was sagging from all that weight over the years from that fireplace. We got it all leveled out and much better now. We decided we needed a window. That's where the fireplace used to be. So I started building a window frame. There's a header in place, and now I'm doing a cut. Very nerve-wracking. The reason it's nerve-wracking because once you start cutting an exterior wall, you're beyond the point of no return. There is no going back. This is just the rough cut opening I'm working on here. After I get that centerpiece out of there with the rough cut in place, then I can go back and trim it down fine where I need it at. There it is with the rough cut. And daylight. No going back from here. That's what it looked like from the front doorway. There's the window. It's in. Taking a breather there and enjoying my handiwork. At this point, I installed plywood over the opening over the crawl space, and you'll see some green insulation. It's special fire rated for 5,000 degrees, and I had to go to Pendleton to buy that. And the stub wall is starting to come out. I put some fire rock where the wood stove's going to go on top of the insulation, and then that's what the new window looks from the outside of the house. Closer view of the fire rock on top of the new fire insulation. Above the fire rock, you can see the black stove pipe sticking out I had stubbed through for the new wood stove. And patched the ceiling. And the stub wall is now gone. Strong backs are installed. At this point, we removed the rest of the paneling from the living room and dining room and started filling gaps and cracks with spray foam insulation and remnants of the fire insulation. At this point, we hired a contractor to come in and finish hanging sheetrock, do the tape and texturing, and retexture the entire ceiling and patch it all up. That was the best $800 we've ever spent.
They're not eating a whole lot of corn. Make sure you plug that back in, okay? And don't forget to take your pill.
Here the drywall contractor has finished taping and is sanding. For us, it was a big relief to see it come to this point after having been under construction for almost 9 months at this point. Inspector number 9 was checking up on us.
That's where the fireplace used to be. The pipe for the new wood stove.
Jamie had painted the walls and the ceiling at this point, and it was time to start dealing with the floor. We knew we were going to put hardwood flooring in, but we wanted it to match even with the Vermont slate, so I had to put a filler in of this OSB wafer board to get it, and we got pretty much the entire line between the hardwood flooring and the Vermont slate to be fairly level except for about 2 feet on the very end of the wall, which there was nothing we could do about. Hardwood flooring starting to get laid out here. There's another shot of all the new OSB wafer board on the floor. Jamie putting her different pieces in so she could start her puzzle. And she's putting her puzzle together. After we put the puzzle in place and figured out how we wanted things to go, we had to pull it back up and then start nailing it down one row at a time. Here is what it started to look like. Almost finished. And then there's the new wood stove on a temporary pad. Wood stove in the middle of winter and Dexter enjoying the heat. The view from the living room looking towards the dining room. Those couches are gone now. Got something much better. From the dining room looking back towards the living room. And we have coming up the two little stalkers stalking a quail. We had put the wood stove in temporarily because our tile contractor was really backed up and it took him a long time to get to us. At this point, he's installing the baseboard, which has 3 sheets of sheetrock, and then the fire rock goes on top of that. On top of that, he will put the Vermont slate tile that we had saved from when we had cut the flooring back. And you'll see the Vermont slate on the backer board there too. Two little stalkers again. There we go. Looking better. Getting close. TV's mounted on the wall. Just cleaning up. And we are there. We're about through with our presentation here. Back to that final shot again. Thank you for watching.